Hi, just a very short video, but I found this graffiti here of Trump on the Palestinian wall. Thanks for the wall, Trumpy pumpkin. Baby, your country and you will always come first, my love. And what's this one? I'm going to build you a brother. And you know, that's why I've made this video, to show the antiquity of Trump, of these two characters, just how they're just so locked in antiquity. I mean, yeah, I really loathe their crimes and their beliefs and everything, but it's just sad that they've not stepped into their humanity, really. They've been so distracted by the powers and promises of this world that they've lost sight of their own true beings, you know. And the fact is that, yes, Netanyahu is building his wall. Trump is in the process of building his wall. Meanwhile, you know, the Eastern European walls come down, and it's just, it's hard to understand how 21st century society can accept this, you know. What really goes back to what? Ancient China. You know, ancient Britain. Basically Rome, wherever Rome went, all that type of consciousness. I mean, alright, I don't think it wasn't Rome who built the Emperor's Wall, but at the end of the day, it was a wall to keep out the marauders, wasn't it? And yet today, who are the marauders? It's actually the marauders have succeeded in oppressing everybody throughout history, and now the marauders are building their walls. And this is what I mean. This is why we'll never succeed by trying to battle with these at their own games, you know, with bombs and bullets and what have you. The fact is, the truth sets us free, and I've shared it here actually, if I can just find the link now. I'll just pause it and just make sure I get the right link. So here it is. It's Sacha Stone with Ronald, and he's explaining some really interesting stuff, and I, for one, can say yes, and I know there's lots of other people out there who say yes, we understand exactly what he's talking about. He's telling the exact truth. He's explaining true universal reality to us, and it's about time people started to wake up to reality and you know, let go of this silly world that gives us these two. I mean, I was watching him the other day, stood in front of his case of CDs and a bookshelf, and I just thought, it's totally ludicrous. It's totally ludicrous. They are just ludicrous. It was like when he was stood, was it at the UN, with his picture of a cartoon bomb. Honestly, you know, I mean, these really are cartoon thinkers, aren't they? They're just totally two-dimensional, and obviously they don't believe in God, Yahweh, Allah. They don't believe in God. If they believed in God, well, if he believed in God for a start, Israel, the whole of Palestine would be a paradise, with both for both Israelis and Palestinians. You know, if he was really a true Jew, and all of his ilk that established Israel in the first place, you know, the people of Palestine would have been absolutely delighted to have received them. They would have made life wonderful there. You know, they wouldn't be having to bomb Syria. Syrians would be like, yeah, we like that same lifestyle. I think they already had it in Libya. But no, instead, wherever they go, they spread destruction, because that's all they know. That is all they know. That is how they make the profits. They don't understand that they're not profiting at all. They're just losing. They're chopping off their own lines in the future. They're denying themselves future happiness. They're destroying the very humanity that they'll be reborn into. They're so silly, so stupid. Hopefully they will understand the truth and wake up and repent, you know, like Mr. Bernard has done. And we all have to do, to some degree or another. And that's when we trust each other, when we know we're all of the golden light, we're all of the one light. This whole galaxy is created of one light. We're all of that one light. And we're born in these different lives. There's all the quantum dimensions. I mean, everything that Mr. Bernard is explaining here, I've explained in my previous videos and before. I'd heard about Mr. Bernard, you know, and there's lots of other people who have similar experiences who explain the same. We're talking about the same thing here. The reality of our eternal quantum energy soul, light being body. It's a scientifically proven fact. I've had to accept it. I witnessed it, so I can't, you know, I absolutely point blank refuse to ignore my own life experience just because this world that apparently has built a whole blooming religion around it chooses not to believe, because apparently, you know, people only have experiences, these spiritual experiences, they only have them, you know, hundreds of years ago, you know, thousands of years ago. Nobody of modern times can have experiences like that. There's nothing new for us to learn. We've learned everything we need to know from the spiritual people. Thank you very much. We're just going to focus on the technology and make sure that we only choose the stuff that's most suited to our needs of paranoia and sadism, because they are totally insane. You know, they are totally insane. This wall is insanity. And they're so evil, you know, they use, while they're standing up for people's freedom of speech, they actually deny people's freedom of speech. They have this idea that freedom can operate without respect. I'm sorry, freedom, no respect, that's not freedom. That's not freedom. If there's no respect, criminals are free. Freedom of speech doesn't mean allowing criminals to verbally abuse and insult and attack people. It does allow people to say the truth, and it does allow the oppressed people to speak out against those who are oppressing them and causing them damage, and who are telling them lies, and who've conned their way into power, and who aren't being honest. We have a right freedom of speech to ask those questions. We have a freedom of speech to ask the questions about why the children of our planet are being treated discriminately. Why some children aren't getting healthcare, why children aren't getting their rights. We have a right to ask these questions. That's freedom of speech. But oh no, apparently that's non-violent terrorism. I mean, seriously, honestly, I mean, where this so-called alt-right, whatever this blooming heck it is, gets off, all I can think is that the people that support this must be very, very frightened people. And, you know, all I can say to them that, look, your fear is misplaced, because actually the people you should be most fearing are these two. Once you put your faith and trust in the universal golden light intelligence and Jesus, the Son of Man, okay, Son of Man, both male and female, man, that's a Jesus, born of a man and a woman, not Son of God, Son of Man. You know, when will people just get the thick heads around what is written in black and white, and it says it very clearly, 78 times. Jesus says, I am the Son of Man. He taught us to pray to our Father, not his Father, our Father. Get reality into your brain, people, because everything's been whitewashed, and they even whitewashed the walls. As long as we remember not to paint the woodwork white, not to whitewash the woodwork, okay? Notice reality. Notice the life that's creating their reality, that's been wasted to create their reality. How they're all operating on the same vein, and they're all coming out with the same rhetoric. You know, 1 minute Netanyahu's, you know, one of the ministers of his government is saying, you know, and a female as well, oh, we shouldn't just kill the terrorists, we should kill their families as well. And then we hear Trump supporters a couple of years later saying exactly the same thing. I tell you, everything has just gone crazy. Crazy. And I know that there's a lot of people getting very worried and getting afraid and getting scared, and you know, that's when the people like Trump can come along, and you know, he's the solution to the problem that everybody's reacting against. But you know, people like Mr. Bernard and Sacha Stone here, and so many other people that are out there, you know, that I advise people to have a look at H. Thomas Ackerman's videos, and I'll leave one of them in the links under this. And We're explaining. No BBC here to give Mr. Bernard an interview, is there? None of the likes of Terry Wogan. He's not going to get Wembley Stadium, is he? And, you know, I shared this underneath, which I'll just pause it. I'm not going to read it, but if you want to read it, you can pause it here and you can read it. And I shared it because I'd shared it. This is what I wrote on my Facebook when I shared this video. And I think, you know, what's written here is important, and it might seem nothing. It's just a little thing, a comment on a YouTube video. But, you know, this reflects 26 years of my life. And I'm now 26 years old because in 1992, you know, that is when I became my true self. And I was allowed to be my true self. And so, you know, the 26th of April is 1992, is my second birthday. Because my first birthday I was just a slave, born to slaves, to be a slave. And on the 26th of April 1992, I was born into my universal being. And yes, it's been very, very, very hard surviving in this world, because, you know, on the absolute bottom of the social heap. And, you know, surviving what I've had to survive, dealing with the judgments, the suspicion, just so many things. It has been really, really difficult. But good people, there's good people out there who've helped me through. Jesus helped me through. Prophet Muhammad helped me through. And he, you know, Prophet Muhammad is a very misunderstood individual, precisely because of the antics of these two that would have everybody believe just so many ridiculous things. And even actually it's so popular, these lies and myths that they spread about Islam, that even Muslims believe them, you know. And well, they did the same to Christianity, didn't they? They did exactly the same. But that is what we're dealing with, you know. And I'm living in a country that Parliament considers itself so upright and civilised and, you know, all these things, and yet they've got the Israel lobby and they've just allowed this to continue, what's been going on in Palestine, you know. And they're moaning about chemical weapons after it's known that Israel used phosphorus bombs on Gaza, and they've also used them, deployed them in Lebanon. And, you know, you're talking horrific injuries from that. It's just terrible, you know. And that is why I have asked true Jews, as is explained a little bit in this comment here, to update the Torah, you know, include Jesus as a prophet of God in the Torah. Time has told. He stood the test of time. He was in his day a true Jew among the Jews of his day, just as you Torah Jews now understand you are the true Jews of today. You understand the Zionists are imposters, just as Jesus understood that same user of consciousness that had taken over the synagogues was an imposter too in his times. And the people were persuaded to denigrate him exactly in the same way that people, your own people of today, Jewish people, have been persuaded to denigrate the true Torah Jews who were speaking out against Zionism. And so they are Jesus. You know, Jesus is alive in you, true Jews today. And I know that it would give so much strength to the Torah Jews, and it would give strength to the Palestinian people as well, because the one thing that then the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims all have in common is that we accept Jesus, because we understand who he is. We don't, you know, before we being told that he was the Son of God and all this type of thing, of course Jews aren't going to accept that. It goes against everything of their faith, their true faith. That's a Roman thing, Greco-Roman thing, you know, gods copulating with humans and having babies. I mean, alright, there's some mention of it in early Genesis, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't happen apart from when Jesus suddenly arrives and Rome gets hold of the whole story. And suddenly, yeah, you know, God's impregnating a young virgin. I mean, seriously. And so this is why it is so important. I do plead with the true Torah Jews, who I admire, have so much respect for, you know, but like the Muslims, like the Christians, you need to get moving now with new knowledge, with 21st century knowledge, and start living up to date with the knowledge, as the Quran asks Muslims to do, as Christians are trying to do as well. So, and this is all part of it, is because this new world order, like I've just said, these key players, they are a dinosaur consciousness. They really are. They're not fully operating from the full frontal lobes. I mean, no sane person would carry on like these two carry on the world stage, and even hope to get away with it. And they get away with it simply because they do actually believe in themselves. And there's a lot of very nasty people that are happy to believe in them, because they know that with people like this in charge, they'll be able to get away with everything they want to get away with. And that does include robbing, raping, murdering and abusing children for fun. They just want their fun. And you know, life's not fun for criminals when Jesus rules. So, you know, Jah live, and that's true when we make it true.